Hello students, I am Professor Isha Medirata from LG Institute of Engineering and Technology. We have started with the second chapter of our syllabus, Electronic Materials, and we have covered till the topic EK diagram that was discussed in the previous video, wherein we discussed what an EK diagram is, its uses, its comparison with energy band diagram, and the types of semiconductors based on EK diagram. In today's video, I will be discussing another topic which is based on the Kronig-Penney model, that is effective mass of an electron, and we also will be studying what is Fermi level. So starting with effective mass of an electron, now this is a concept which is purely dependent on periodic potential, which is purely dependent on the concept which was proposed by Ralph Kronig and William Penney. Let's have a look at what effective mass of an electron is. It is the altered mass of an electron due to periodic potential in a crystal lattice. Let me first explain what exactly this sentence means. We all know that mass of electron is constant, but according to the Kronig-Penney model, the motion of an electron in one dimension that is in periodic potential. So now I can say, and suppose I give you two examples. One, I give you an example that you have an electron in vacuum and you are applying electric field in this direction to that electron. So obviously the electron is going to move in the opposite direction. Now the same electron we assume in a periodic potential. Same amount of electric field is applied to the second electron. What will happen? It will definitely accelerate in opposite direction, opposite to electric field. But because of the periodic potential, I can say electron is under the influence of two forces. One is the external force due to electric field. The other one is due to the periodic potential inside the lattice. Let's exactly see what periodic potential in a lattice is. So this diagram just shows that electron is moving in one-dimensional potential, and you can say in the diagram that the potential of this electron varies periodically. Now let us have a brief look at the EK diagram. In the third diagram below, you can see that mass of an electron changes due to the EK diagram or based on the EK diagram because of periodic potential. Because the electron is under the influence of two forces. One is the external, other is the internal. So this is the need of defining effective mass of an electron. Moving ahead. Derivation of effective mass of an electron. Let us consider E as an electric field which we apply to a crystal, to an electron. So what will be the force experienced by electron? Now we know that capital E is the electric field applied. So we have two equations of force. One is F is equals to EE, and the second, because electron accelerates opposite to electric field, we can also say according to Newton's law, F is equals to ma. Comparing these two equations, we have EE is equals to ma, and here we will be defining m as EE by A. Because we say that electron is under the influence of two forces, the acceleration will change because E and E is constant. Charge of electron is constant and the electric field applied is also constant. We apply a fixed value. So if acceleration changes, definitely the mass is going to be altered. Now, electron in one-dimensional potential, it is actually a cluster or waves of electrons which move. So, we define the group velocity which represents such electrons as V is equals to d omega by dk. Now, let's see. Energy of an electron is defined as E is equals to h cut omega, where h is known as h upon 2 pi, that is Planck constant divided by 2 pi, and omega is the frequency. Differentiating with respect to k, we can say that we get the equation d by dk is equals to h cut d omega by dk. If we apply this equation, what do we get is, we get the value of velocity as 1 upon h cut d by dk, which implies velocity is equals to 2 pi h d by dk. I have just substituted h upon 2 pi instead of h cut. Acceleration. Now if I say velocity equation is obtained, which is the equation number 3 here, I can define acceleration as rate of change of velocity. So we can define A as dv by dt, where we already have the equation of E. So what will be the equation of A? It can be defined as 2 pi by h, that's a constant term, d by dt into d by dk. Now let's see what comes next. So now we have the equation of A as 2 pi by h d square e by dk square into dk by dt. Now what I have done here is I have multiplied and divided my equation by dk. So dk in the numerator, dk in the denominator, hence I obtain equation number 5. We know that 2 pi by h is a constant. The term d square e by dk square can be obtained from the EK diagram. How will we obtain the value of dk by dt? Why are we doing this? We want to find out the equation of m. And if we find out A, the effective mass can be calculated. So now to find out dk by dt, let us use the work energy theorem. What does the work energy theorem say? It says that work done, the change in work done is equals to the change in force applied. That is dw is equals to dE. This implies that what will be the work done? It can be force into displacement. So we know that dw is equals to F into dx. Comparing these two equations, I can say dE is equals to EE into dx. But I can write the term dx, that is displacement, as velocity into change of time. So we get the final equation as dE is equals to E into electric field into V into dt. Moving ahead, we have, now in this term, we do not have the term dk yet. So what we do is, we make the use of the standard equation of V which we derived, and we get dE by dk is equals to EE, 2 pi by h into dE by dk into dt. And from this equation, we can derive the value of dk by dt. And substituting this value in the equation 4, we get A is equals to 2 pi by h, d square e by dk square into 2 pi EE by h. The term 2 pi into 2 pi, and in denominator h into h is taken as constant, and the final equation is written as A is equals to 4 pi by h square d square e by dk square into EE. And we already know that m star, that is the effective mass, is equals to EE upon A, and the equation of A we have derived here. So substituting this equation in the equation of m star, we can get, we are just comparing the two equations of A. So EE by m star is equals to 4 pi h square into d square e by dk square into EE. And from this equation, we have the equation m star is equals to h cut square d square e by dk square raised to -1. We have just made m star as the subject. Now this equation, which is written in the yellow colored box, is known as the expression for effective mass of an electron. In this equation, you can clearly see that h cut square is a constant, and hence we say that effective mass of an electron clearly depends on EK diagram, clearly depends on the term d square e by dk square raised to -1. Let's move ahead and discuss what Fermi level is. Starting with the term fermion. What is fermion? Fermions are half-integer spin particles like electrons which obey Pauli's principle. What does that mean? The filling up of electrons will start from the lowest level with 2 electrons per level, then the higher level, then the higher level, then the higher level. So this is the hierarchy of filling up of energy levels. Now let's see what Fermi level is. It is the highest energy level which electrons can occupy at absolute zero. The maximum energy level of an electron even at absolute zero. So at absolute zero, what is the maximum energy level where electrons are present is what is the Fermi level. Let's see what Fermi energy is. Fermi energy is denoted as EF. It is the energy which electrons possess in Fermi level. So Fermi level is the maximum level of occupancy at 0 Kelvin, and the value of that energy is what is known as Fermi energy. Let's look at one more term related to this topic, that is Fermi function. It is also known as Fermi distribution function. It is the probability of occupancy of energy levels by fermions in terms of Fermi energy, absolute temperature and Boltzmann constant. So it's a basic equation which relates probability of occupancy with these three terms. Let's see what the equation of Fermi function is. So let us consider a system of electrons in thermal equilibrium having a temperature T. We define the probability as f of E because it is a function of energy, because it is going to give us the probability of occupancy of energy level. We put it as a function of energy. So probability of an electron occupying an energy level is given by this equation. F of E is equals to 1 upon 1 plus e raised to e minus ef upon kBT. Here the term f of E means probability function. You can say the probability of occupancy. The term ef here means Fermi energy. Kb is Boltzmann constant and T means absolute temperature. Value of Boltzmann constant 1.38 into 10 raised to minus 23 joule per Kelvin. Now moving ahead, we have dependence of Fermi level on temperature. Let us see how this Fermi level varies with temperature and how this Fermi level varies with Fermi energy. What is the dependence on these two? So to explain this dependence, we'll be considering some cases. Starting with case number 1A, we take absolute temperature to be 0, like T is equals to 0, and energy of electron we consider less than EF. We know the standard equation of Fe, right? It is 1 upon 1 plus e raised to e minus ef upon kBT, where we already have the term T is equals to 0. But because we have taken e less than ef in this equation, your probability function will be 1 upon e raised to minus int will give you the answer as 1. That means for a temperature T equal to 0 and E less than EF, probability of occupancy is 1, means 100% levels will be occupied. So all energy levels at T is equals to 0 Kelvin and at energy E less than EF will have complete 100% probability. Let's consider case number 2 here. Again T is equals to 0, but now we take the energy greater than EF. So what will we get? In the equation Fe is equals to 1 upon 1 plus e raised to e minus ef upon kBT, we have T is equals to 0, but in this case E is greater than EF, and so we get Fe is equals to 1 upon e raised to infinity, not minus infinity, and this gives us the probability function as 0. What does that mean? At 0 Kelvin, where there is no energy, the energy level which is above EF will be empty. Obviously, because we are not giving energy. And at absolute 0, the maximum level which is occupied is EF. So any level above EF will not have any electron, or it will be empty. Let's clearly understand what the variation is. So in this graph you can see these are the levels which are being occupied till EF. We call them as occupied levels. And all the levels which are above this value indicated by green lines are unoccupied level. So this is a graph which is representing T is equals to 0 Kelvin, and we can clearly see that till the level EF in the graph you can see that there are electrons present having only 2 electrons per energy level because they follow Pauli's principle. All energy levels which are above EF are unoccupied. Let's move on to case number 2. Case number 2. We consider a temperature which is non-zero. Let us say room temperature, and we consider a particular case that energy of electron is equal to EF. So in this case, we have T as non-zero. So F of E, if E minus EF, E and EF are same, E minus EF will give you 0. So we have 1 upon E raised to 0, that means the probability is 0.5. What does this mean? At any temperature above 0 Kelvin, say for example room temperature which we consider as 27 Kelvin, that is comparatively low, there is a 50% probability that the level will be occupied and there is a 50% probability that the level will be empty. Let's just understand with the help of a graph which says Fe, that is probability on the y-axis and energy on the e-axis. You can see the yellow colored variation. The yellow colored variations is the actual thing that happens, and you can clearly see that 50% is the probability which corresponds to EF. So any value above EF having energy E, 50% there is a possibility it is occupied and 50% is the probability that it is not occupied. Now let us just consider the third case, that is very, very high temperatures. The earlier case we considered T is equals to around approximately room temperature. So there is a possibility of comparing E and EF. But if we compare very high temperatures, we can never have the energy equal to EF because EF is a fixed value. And because we are considering very high temperatures, the energy difference between E and EF will be very high. And what happens at very high temperatures? We say that the probability function will fall. Why? Because electrons gain energy and they move to the higher vacant states. So, we cannot clearly define how many levels are filled up and how many levels are vacant. Because we are increasing the temperature, we are giving energy, so electrons are moving at the higher levels, to the higher levels. And so there is no clear picture of how many levels are vacant. Let's just have a look at the graph. So again, you can see in the graph that this is the ideal condition representing T0, that is 0 Kelvin. Now as you increase the temperature, just have a look at T1, T2, T3. I can say T3 greater than T2, greater than T1. So if I say I increase the temperature, just see the variation in the graph, just see the green colored line. I say my Fermi function becomes more gradual. The ideal condition represented by the white one in the graph is known as abrupt. But now it is becoming gradual. Instead of abrupt change, it is a gradual change. And the reason for this is you cannot explain how many energy levels are empty and how many are filled up. So this was about Fermi level we discussed. So in today's video, we have covered what exactly is effective mass of an electron, which is based on the concept we discussed in Kronig-Penney model. And we discussed what is Fermi level and how this Fermi level varies with temperature. You have understood all the topics discussed today very well. With this topic, I end my chapter Electronic Materials. I will be starting with next chapter of our syllabus, that is Semiconductors, from my coming video. Till then, take care. Thank you.